Alright, hello guys. In this video, we're going to be talking about Major Winter Storm Gage, and this is that same blizzard we've been talking about for days and days now. Actually, over a week, I've been talking about this storm, potential storm, and sure enough, here we are. It's starting tonight into tomorrow. So we have a pretty big update on the snowfall forecast as we go throughout this video, and a few more differences in the forecast, specifically for Wisconsin and Michigan. There's big differences here, so make sure to stay tuned throughout the entire video. Now, before I get started with this video, though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather related content, and also make sure to share this with your friends and family on social medias if they live in the affected regions or if they find weather interesting as well. Currently, we're looking at our watches, warnings, and advisories. You can see we have some new winter storm warnings up for Nebraska and Wyoming. That's all associated with Major Winter Storm Gage here, as we're going to have heavy amounts of snowfall starting out for those regions tonight in through tomorrow morning, and then continuing over the next couple of days. We're going to go over our simulated radar, obviously, where we will get a much better look at the conditions expected for those regions, but we have tons of winter storm watches up through the Dakotas and Minnesota as well as some of those portions in Colorado. Let's look at our first frame of simulated radar. First off, we're taking a zoomed out look because this storm is going to be really elongated at first, and eventually we will take a more Midwest look here. But on our first frame, we can see our low pressure system developing there for the four corner states, and that's as of this afternoon, which is December 27th. Now we're about to move on and start to move to where we're going to start to see snow developing for northern portions of Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska, which is going to be a very, very exciting thing to take a look at here. As you can see, this is by later this evening, and we see the very, very northeastern regions of Colorado getting some moderate snowfall developing, as well as some of those southwestern portions of Nebraska and the very northwesterns of Kansas. We have mixed to snow going on here by this point. We are going to move on one more frame, more towards, I would say, 11 p.m. tonight, December 27th. And we see that snow spreading to where we see it for some of the southeastern portions of Wyoming, the very western portions of Nebraska, and then South Dakota. We're starting to see some snowfall beginning to shape up as well. We are going to move on towards tomorrow morning around sunrise, and we see that moderate snow just building in, and this is that elongated look I was talking about. We have snowfall going on all the way from Arizona and New Mexico up through Colorado and Utah into Wyoming, and then up through the Dakotas as well. Very elongated, but we will be able to take a zoomed in look here soon as we move on to actually now take a zoomed in look at the Midwest, as the snow primarily is located over the Dakotas, Nebraska, and Minnesota by this point. This is going to be tomorrow, Saturday, December 28th, maybe. I would say this is about afternoon time, 3 or 4 p.m., and we see Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and northern Minnesota getting the most moderate to heavy snowfall by this point. We see our low pressure system is still located over Oklahoma and Kansas as well, though. Now we're about to move on where we're going to see even heavier snowfall start to develop, which is going to be super exciting as we see very heavy snowfall and even extreme blizzard conditions start to set up. All right, so as you can see, this is going to be probably about 3 or 4 a.m. tomorrow night, heading into Sunday, December 29th, and we see that moderate to very heavy snowfall shaping up for particularly Nebraska and South Dakota, but also extending a little bit into North Dakota and northern Minnesota with those moderate snowfall amounts, but the heaviest snow is in those deeper blues there in the very eastern regions of Nebraska and South Dakota. You can see our low pressure system is a 997 millibar low pressure system that's located over northern Iowa. You can see that a lot of regions to the east of it are getting rain, and just to the north of it, but to the very west of it is where we're seeing the heaviest amounts of snow, and this is where we're going to have the heaviest winds as well by this point, which is going to lead to blizzard conditions for Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and maybe even a bit of Minnesota as well. Let's move on more towards about 11 a.m. on December 29th here, and you can see the heaviest of the snow moves up into South Dakota, North Dakota, and then northern Minnesota as well there, as we have a 997 millibar low pressure system located over southern Minnesota by this point. And it's probably bringing blizzard conditions to South Dakota, North Dakota, and northern Minnesota by this point. Probably one of the most intense snowstorms of this year. I'm willing to bet this one is a very major blizzard that we have taking place. It was very exciting to track this one. By time we reach maybe dinner time on December 29th here. That's going to be Sunday. We see moderate snow for Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and as well as the very western portions of Minnesota still. And a 993 millibar low pressure system is still located over Minnesota. And that moderate snow just continues and continues and continues. We still have very windy conditions here, so probably whiteout conditions for a lot of regions there as well. Now we're about to move on and continue looking at that snow, which is about to make a very interesting transition into the states of primarily Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, which wasn't really previously expected, but that seems to be a new twist with this storm. All right, so as you can see, we still have a 997 millibar low pressure system here by maybe about 10 p.m. on December 30th. We have moderate snow still going on for the Dakotas in through Iowa, a little bit of Nebraska still, and then Minnesota as well. As we move on, it's going to start to make that very interesting transition. I would say this is probably about 7 a.m. on Monday, December 30th. We still have that light to moderate snow going on for Nebraska, the Dakotas, and Minnesota, where it's just going to keep snowing, and be very windy. So blizzard conditions, obviously, for those regions. But now we have that low pressure system redeveloping over Michigan, and we start to see some mixing and heavy snow for the northern peninsula of Michigan. Let's move on one more towards that evening, and you can see we switch to all snow. We see that northern peninsula and then northern Wisconsin start to get moderate to heavy snow. Also, some of the southern peninsula regions of Michigan getting some snowfall. And this is really a twist that we didn't really expect before. As we head towards the middle of the night on Monday into Tuesday, December 31st, we still have that snowfall going on for Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. Let's move on one more towards that afternoon of Tuesday, December 31st, and the low pressure system is located over the northern peninsula, and we still have snowfall going on for portions of Indiana and Illinois possibly, but mostly for Michigan here by this point. And after that, it really just turned into mostly snow showers for most regions. Now we're about to move on and take a look at our total snowfall forecast from all of the models, and then also take a look at our direct weather forecasted total snowfall map, which again, we've upgraded it to 20 to 30 inches we're expecting now. Going to be super exciting to take a look at that. Alright, so first things first, here's our NAM 3KM, and the important thing to note is that this ends by Monday, December 30th, as this model doesn't go too far out, but for that first maybe third of the storm, this is what it's expecting. We do see a lot of those greens showing up for South Dakota and North Dakota and Minnesota, and that's where we're looking at 12 inches plus, so very exciting to see that. Let's also take a look at our GEM model, which is the one that we took a look at the end of that simulated radar to see kind of our more long-range forecast, and you can see it as that green from northern Nebraska up through portions of South Dakota, North Dakota, and then northern Minnesota, also a little bit of the upper peninsula of Michigan there as well. And we see some of those blues popping up for South Dakota and Minnesota, which is indicating 24 inches plus. Very, very exciting to see that showing up. And last but not least, let's take a look at our European model. Here's the 10-to-1 ratio, and what that means is that's 10 inches of snow per 1 inch of actual precipitation, which is kind of typical with near 32-degree conditions, but we're looking at upper teens and lower 20s. So let's look at our Kuchera ratio, or Kukura. I don't know how you pronounce that. I've never actually said it out loud, but this tends to be actually pretty accurate in some situations, and this ratio has us getting upwards of close to 30 inches for South Dakota and North Dakota there. I don't think we will be that close to 30 inches, but I certainly think we have a pretty good chance of getting above 20 inches. That's very, very intense amounts of snow there on the European model when we take a look at the Kuchera ratio there. Now, I wanted to show a lot of people in the previous video were like, why are you calling this a blizzard or a major blizzard? You haven't even shown the winds. So I did want to take a look at the winds. We did take a look at that in one of our more previous videos, but not yesterday. So I wanted to take a look at that again. And this is, you can see where our low pressure system is by the counterclockwise spinning motion there over Minnesota and South Dakota. And then we have heavy snowfall by this point for South Dakota and North Dakota. This is going to be 3Z Monday. So this is probably about 10 p.m. on Sunday night. And we see those reds and oranges showing up for the Dakotas, and that's indicating 30 to 48 mile per hour sustained winds. That is certainly blizzard conditions for these regions, and I expect blizzard warnings to be up for Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota, possibly even Minnesota at some point. So I just wanted to show that since I had a few people asking. Let's get into our official snowfall forecast now. Let's add our first layer, which is going to be our dusting to 3-inch layer. You can see this extends from Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, through Nebraska, Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and in through Michigan as well. Keep in mind, in the Rockies, we will be experiencing some snowfall, but that's not primarily associated with Winter Storm Gage here, so I didn't include that, but keep in mind, if you are to the west of this snowfall total map, you could be getting snowfall that's not necessarily associated with this storm. Let's add our second layer of snowfall, though. This is our 3 to 6 inch layer, which extends from portions of Colorado up through Nebraska, Wyoming, a little bit of Montana there, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And then for our 6 to 10 inch region, which is very, very large, and this is already where I'd constitute this as a major winter storm. And you can see this one's mostly for Nebraska, the Dakotas, in through Minnesota, and then into the Wisconsin and Michigan area. I wanted to mention I didn't, yesterday even, I didn't have it in Wisconsin and Michigan, but now I do expect to see a lot more snowfall there than originally expected. Let's add our 10 to 15 inch layer, which you can also see in the upper peninsula of Michigan and northern Wisconsin as well, but mostly for Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and northern Minnesota there. And then we have our 15 to 20 inch layer there for the Dakotas and northern Minnesota, and even our 20 to 30 inch layer there for a little bit of South Dakota and North Dakota. I expect that we will get over 20 inches in a few select regions within this, probably not approaching 30 inches, but I certainly think it's possible that we do see some areas get over 25 inches of snow, which is absolutely amazing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I might have an update tomorrow for this region of this storm. I don't know for sure. Probably just the Great Lakes if I do, but certainly for New England, we are expecting to see snowfall later on. I didn't mention it in this video yet, but I am certainly going to have forecasts out for that portion of the storm. That's going to be starting up Sunday night into Monday, so stay tuned for that. I'll probably have a video out on that probably tomorrow or something like that. Maybe even Sunday morning. I don't know. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to share it with your friends and family, especially if they live in these regions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.